Hey folks, welcome back to the interview. I'm Peter Catalano. You know, I love working with great people here in the Houston marketplace who own their own business or work for somebody that owns a great business. And today we get to talk to Sean, who is a coach extraordinaire. Sean has some great background and experience in working with mid-sized companies, especially in the employee issue arena. So before we get too deep into it, Sean, welcome to the interview. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh gosh, more than my pleasure to hear from you. I know you got great information. We were just chatting about an area, and I just kind of want to dive right into it here, Sean, and get into this employee issue. You know, I kind of want you to lead where you really want to go here. But I'll tell you what I see out there as a consumer: hiring everywhere, can't find employees, people aren't showing up to work, people got to stay home because of COVID, and then and I can only imagine, you know, if you're trying to build a sales team and you're dealing with all these external factors and this, I mean, how does an employer manage this right now? What are your clients seeing out there, Sean?
Well, it's tough right now. You know, we were talking earlier with this. Some people want to stay at home. Some people want to go back. And, you know, in November alone, we saw 4.5 million Americans walk away from their place of employment. They weren't fired. They weren't let go. They walked away. They made the conscious decision. I don't want to do this anymore. That's a struggle. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, what it comes down to, both in the sales arena, the employee arena, the growth arena, is the company culture. If the words on the wall don't match what the employees see and feel, they're going to make another decision. I think if we've learned anything about COVID, is people have learned what's really important to them.
I'm certainly with you, but how does an employer convey that today? What, you know, and I don't want to, you know, I don't want you to give away the farm here, but if you give us a teaser, that would be great. You know, what are you helping your employers do for retention? Because it sounds like it's a retention issue.
It is a retention issue, but it goes deeper than that. The retention issue is where you see the symptom, right? It's like, why is that happening? And you think, well, we're not paying them enough. Oh, we don't have enough benefits. Blah, 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 blah. It's culture. If they see leadership not living up to the words that are on the wall, right? And that communication, and it's in everything. If you tell me that honesty is really important and you're caught not telling the truth, or if you tell me that, you know, we're going to be the best at everything that we do, but we send out shoddy product and we know it, or we push a client to do, you know, maybe something that's not in their best interest, pick the category, right? But we list out core values that are really important to us, and we break those as a leadership team. We break those as an owner, as a small business leader. That doesn't resonate well. And it typically drizzles down throughout the organization, right? That's why we don't have the benefits we have. We don't support our employees. We don't make them our most important asset. You know, almost every company lists our number one assets are employees, and they treat them like crap. Well, that doesn't make sense. You know, they should be your number one client, because they really are. They're the interface between your organization and your client. What that client sees is the employee they talk to, whether that's the salesperson or a customer service person or your accounting person or your service person. You know, if you own an irrigation company, the person out there putting in the irrigation system is probably the face of your company to that client. You know, if they're a pesticide company, the guy that's walking around inside and outside of their house, that's the face of your company. And so it's not necessarily who you might think it is. A lot of companies will have a sales team out there and they put all the emphasis on the sales team, which I'm huge. Where sales goes, the company typically goes. But what happens after they're a client? What does the client see? Who are they interfacing with? You know, so if we see this revolving door, whether it's with clients or with employees, we really need to look at our culture. We really need to understand what's happening. And that's the hardest thing right now for companies to grasp. You know, the other issue is that we've got some employees that are at home and some employees that are coming back to work. So how do we build a culture with employees that may have never met? You know, especially in this robust economy of hiring people back. It's not necessarily new jobs, but we're hiring people back, but they may be new to us. How do we build that? How do we build that culture? I was in a meeting with some young employees, right? Guys and gals that were just out of college. And the thing they miss most about the COVID situation that we're in now are the walks from the car to the office after lunch, the time around the water cooler, so to speak. They miss those conversations. So when we're on Zoom and on on these virtual formats, you know, it's all about business pretty much. I mean, yeah, we may say, hey, how your day's going, but we cut right to the chase, right? And we're on a timeline, and we've got another meeting booked right after this meeting. So we miss a lot of that interaction. And that interaction is really where the culture is built. That's really where we hear, how did Peter really treat Bob in the meeting the other day? How does Peter really act outside of this office? And, oh, he is the man he says he is. That's the culture I want to support. So then when Peter is communicating with me, I can trust that what Peter's telling me is the truth. That's the culture I'm talking about.
So a couple of things here, Sean. Number one, my family says to me, why are you yelling at me all the time? And I say, I'm Italian, I'm passionate. I hear the passion in you coming out. And I hope folks who are listening to this see it as well. And excuse my little grin here, because you really see this. You are passionate about creating this culture shift. And I really like where you're coming from here, Sean, is that you've asked the question, why did what's the number you gave me, 4.5 million people decide to leave their job?
Just in November.
In November, 4.5 million people chose to leave the job, weren't terminated, what you told me. And you're asking the question, why? And I like that you're coming back. I think we're seeing a cultural shift. We're seeing that, okay, what, you know, greed is good. If you remember Gordon Gekko from the 80s, all the way to today, where, all right, what are people really facing? You're seeing a big missing in integrity. That's the way I word it. That's what I'm interpreting from you. The integrity from the owners and the management is not there, and therefore not filtered down, because everything flows downhill to the employee. Sean, how do you help somebody through this? We got a short time here today. What can you bring to the table for somebody to help them shift that culture? Because I'm 54 years old, and I fully admit I probably need help shifting this. Mm-hmm. And that's what it sounds like you're suggesting. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. And it's unfortunately, there's no silver bullet in what I do. And anyone that tells you there is, any business coach or sales trainer that tells you, hey, I got the silver bullet, run. There's no silver bullet. It's small changes over time that compound to have the effect. But as far as culture is concerned, it does start exactly as you just spoke: the ownership, the leadership, the leader teams, and the managers down. And think about it this way: if I call your organization and they have to put me on hold to find out the answer, that means there's a lack of trust. They may know the answer, but they're not going to give it to me, because they know if it's wrong, that's a problem. So they go to their manager, and their manager goes to their manager, and it works its way up to a level of hierarchy that's comfortable enough saying, do this. And then it works its way all the way back down. How much money did that just cost that organization? And that is the culture. It's cover my ass. I may know the answer. I think I know what's to go. If the words on the wall are crystal clear and they know that is our core values, they can answer those questions. They know what the best thing to do is, and they should be comfortable in knowing, if I do make a mistake, it's a learning mistake. It's not a repercussion. That's the culture I'm talking about. So people are sitting there going, I don't want to put up with that anymore. I don't want to set myself in that. I don't have to. There are a lot of people hiring, and there are a lot of good organizations out there. I'm going to find something else. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people make decisions that are better for them and their families, that we've never seen before. It's a whole new world. I mean, it's the new normal, and it doesn't mean that we can't do these things. It doesn't mean that the old ways are dead. It means that the flaws in what we were doing are now being exposed. And you're right. It starts with the mindset, and it really has to be. And you're right. I'm Italian too. It's a passion, right? But they need to feel that passion from the owner. They need to feel that passion from the leadership team, so that everybody's on the same page. From the boardroom to the break room, everybody should know what it means, should understand the culture, and be 100% cemented in stating what those are.
You know, and let me share this real quick. As a financial advisor, I do what's called a financial roadmap, and I start every financial roadmap with a values conversation. And the values conversation sits down with spouses and determines their core values, the kind of questions that most people don't talk about. You know, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're starting with safety and security, taking care of others, and then you get into self-actualization. And in self-actualization, our society has really downplayed what's in it for you. All right. So we don't want to talk about it, what's in it for me, but really we do everything. We live our life based on that high level of actualization. We live our life based on serving God, serving people, serving the universe, whatever it is that's there. And we make our decisions based on that. What I'm hearing from you is people need to get back to that. People need to have that understanding of their core value structure, because that is what's filtering down through the business. And you could say, well, that's just my home and not the business. But you know what? Your attitude is your attitude, whether it's at home or in the business. And I know a lot of business owners who bring a bad situation from home into the office.
Or they're
And
tolerating it in their business. Maybe it's not them, it's their vice president or their leader of the sales team or their
Yep.
leader of their project managers, but they're tolerating that behavior.
Yep.
And that's the culture you're going to get. The least behavior you tolerate, that's your culture.
You betcha. Well, you know, listen, I keep these nice and short, and I thank you for this here today. How do people get a hold of you if they want to talk more about shifting the culture in their business?
Very simple. My website is thrive, THRIVE, the number 2, win.com, thrive2win.com. I'd love to help you any way that I can.
I appreciate that. And thank you for your time here, Sean. I know this is extemporaneous, so appreciate your passion. You clearly know what you're talking about and have a joy for it. So
Well,
thank you for your time today.
Peter. Thank you.
Pleasure's mine.